Hi everyone, my name is Carly Hecht.
And my name is Elise Tavir.
Welcome to the third episode of Mappy Hour. Today we have our two guests, Stagg and TJ Klement. So welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you.
I'm really excited to be here today. This is my first Mappy Hour podcast, and we have a great topic for both of our financial experts.
Yep, hospital finance. So why don't we start with a brief introduction coming from both of you?
So my name is Stagg. I work at Cohen Children's Medical Center, and I started there as a MAP in 2017. So I did the 2 full years of MAP there, and then I ended up staying on as our first manager of financial operations. So I got to oversee the MAPs at that point, and we always have a rotating, junior and senior MAP every single year. And I've grown to where I am now, which is the director of financial operations. Been there ever since. I'm going on 7 years in the summer.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so it's crazy how fast the time goes. I mean, it's been 8 years for me. I started at South Shore University Hospital. I was the first MAP there. Really always had an interest in finance and kind of the financial operations of the space. So, always had that lens, and then I ended up kind of working in the Eastern region as a project manager under Dr. Jay Endon. And then from there, I firmly got into finance with Michelle Frankel. And from there, I was the director of finance at Glencoe Plainview Syosset, and now the senior director of finance at Klement.
Oh, awesome. We are so excited to have you guys today as you have such strong financial backgrounds. And we really wanted to touch on the topic hospital finance.
It's awesome to have everyone around the table because we lean into your expertise and constantly look for your insight and advice as we face challenges and learn more and more about what it means to maintain a business within healthcare. So we have a few questions for you both today. We'd like to get more insight.
Yeah.
So, TJ, a few weeks ago I had the opportunity to visit you at Peconic Bay Medical Center and learn a little bit more about your background, and as you just explained to us before, you've seen a lot of the hospitals in the Eastern region. Could you tell us a little bit more and analyze the differences between them and how you've learned to adjust to the landscape of each financial facility?
Absolutely. So a lot of the facilities in the Eastern region are very different. South Shore is the main tertiary there with sort of the majority of the services. And then we have a lot of, community hospitals that have smaller specialized programs. So for me, being able to understand what's driving the revenue in each one of those facilities was very important. And I found the best way to do that was getting hands-on with operations, getting to know the operators, your other executives, and working through what the care model needs to look like for those specific facilities, and then subsequently how the revenue supports that care model. So for me, diving into ops and getting that hands-on feel has been hugely helpful to my understanding of the financial landscape across the region.
I think you make a really strong point when you say really understanding the operations of each of these facilities, because that's what ultimately drives all of these financial decisions. And in order to make the best decision for each hospital, you really need to understand the process and the workflow of each of these units. And I think there's no better way to learn than to apply what you learned at one hospital to another. And whether you're working at a community hospital or a tertiary hospital, they all overlap in their initiatives and their strategies. So I think you have such a great, well-rounded experience from being exposed to all these different environments.
Thank you. It's been wonderful to hit each one of the facilities because each place has a wonderful culture and you get to experience that in addition to learning.
Yeah.
So I found that to be awesome.
TJ, I'd like to know a little bit more about how you use your skills to support program growth across the sites.
Absolutely. So a big portion of these roles, the finance ops roles, is to support the growth of programs through business planning, right? So as the strategy is set by the executive director and the executives, we then come in and try to understand how that strategy would apply to the specific building and kind of partner with our strategic planning folks, get a lot of the market data compiled, and then we lean on a lot of our partners in Westbury Finance to create rates and weigh payer mix and kind of weigh how different payers reimburse us. And then from there, diving into the care model and all of the expense structures in terms of business planning, and we package that all together in a way that some of our partners that are maybe not as financially minded can review and understand sort of the economics of what we're trying to work through.
You've given us a perspective where you've seen multiple sites, but Kim has a little bit different perspective where she's had the opportunity to stay at one place for a while. So maybe you could share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, as you were talking, TJ, it's actually, because I haven't experienced it, it's so crazy to think about going into a new hospital that has a completely different business and business drivers than the other hospital had, right? So like your knowledge about the other hospital and what brings in the most revenue, what drives the bottom line in that facility is going to be completely different from the next. So really diving into what those avenues are at the new sites is something I haven't had to do. Our business has kind of been our business, but I guess some of the differences is that I've been able to understand obviously what our core businesses are and really understand every single product in the building, who the players are, what the rates look like, what the payer mixes are, the top things that if those things are off in that month, we're going to have a bad financial month, right? Like I know those things off the bat just based on the fact that I'm really familiar with the volume trends and what those things look like from a revenue perspective. But I've been able to kind of see new programs come in and understand how those programs are going to kind of affect our existing business. For example, like throughout my time here, we've been working on bringing cardiac transplant, and it's been an ongoing thing. I remember actually when I was a MAP, I started the business plan, and even in my role now, as of the last year, one of our MAPs was actually working on the business plan as well, and we were able to round it out and finish it.
Full circle.
It was a full circle, and hopefully we're going to be doing cardiac transplant this year if we get approved, actually next month.
Awesome.
So that would be really, really great. So those are all things that I've seen kind of come to fruition. The opening of the operating rooms, getting really involved in that and the operations of it and the data part of it, things that Cohen's didn't have before, right? Like we were really connected to LIJ in that aspect and getting data from them and using their space and using their equipment to now kind of parsing that out and understanding what our needs are. So it's just so different because for me, it's more like what kind of services are coming down the pipe, what do we need to business plan for, what is this going to look like in the future for Cohen's.
Yeah, you've really watched the growth of Cohen's.
Yeah.
And I think that that just makes you an expert of the entire facility. My question is, let's say during budget season and you're talking to department leaders or just leaders from other hospitals, what are the main financial differences you see when you're comparing Cohen's to another facility due to this age demographic and the patient population you serve?
Yeah, I think from a financial standpoint, we have the same goals as the rest of the institutions, right? We have a budget, we are held to that budget, and at the end of the day, we have to make similar decisions on what we have to do in order to meet that budget, right? Whether it's looking at our resources, whether it's looking at our programs that maybe don't make money, things like that. Those are all things that I think we don't differ from other hospitals in, but where I think that there is more of a variation to the adult world, and TJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I think because it's children, everyone just has the sight of what type of care we're going to be able to provide that child. So if there is a need from like a resource standpoint, or whether it's people or equipment, I think people are more quick to understand what is the outcome for the child going to be. And there's certain things obviously that we have to invest in that the adult world, you know, if there's equipment that's broken, right, we need to invest in that stuff. But there's some things that are more, I would say, nice to haves in our facility because they provide a better patient experience for the patient, or provide just better care. So we can't just look at the patient, we have to kind of look at the whole family. So for example, investing in an application where you can communicate with the family during a child's surgery. That's something that you can't put a price tag on.
Sure.
That's something that's really important to that family who's waiting there anxiously for their child to get out of surgery. Or investing in like virtual goggles that you would have in an MRI machine for kids who are having to go longer MRIs.
Or even I noticed in the lobby, you guys have a huge fish tank and the Seacrest Studios.
Yeah.
So I imagine a multitude of things that help create the whole patient experience, not just the procedure.
You guys do a great job keeping the mission of caring for each kid at the front and center of everything you do.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. You know, being in finance, we're often back of the house, not as engaged in the operations as maybe some of the other leaders in the building, but it's important that we kind of foster that connection as much as we can as finance people.
Yeah. I think in every site, you're never going to make a decision without consulting with your nursing leaders or your physician leaders,
Sure.
other people in the building, because to us, it might just be an expense that we don't see the value of, but there's so many qualitative aspects to some of the things that we have in our building that can't really be measured, other than we know that we try to measure, right, through our patient experience scores, but those are invaluable things to the population that we serve. And we really have every service. It's a small hospital, but we're a tertiary facility. We really offer everything. We're going for transplant now, one of the few things that we don't offer. So it's just important to have the resources that any adult tertiary facility would have.
Right. And I think you made a great point earlier in that you're not just caring for the patients, the children, but you're caring for their entire family. So it's important that, whatever expenses you are integrating into your hospital, you're thinking about big picture and not just the patient you're caring for, but who they're bringing in with them and who's caring for them.
Definitely.
So Kim, you were saying a little bit before about balancing between the qualitative and the quantitative. How do they measure up? And something that we're often faced with as administrators is politely saying no.
Yeah. So as financial directors, how do you communicate the financial needs with individual units? So FTE requests, equipment requests. They may align with the hospital needs, they may not. How do you navigate this decision, and how do you set valuable expectations for these units?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question, and it's always a balancing act for sure. The approach that I often take is one of education, right? So if somebody's asking for something, I love to bring them to the table and kind of walk through why operationally it's important, what are the benefits, what is the investment required, and how would that possibly be offset. And sometimes those offsets aren't of financial nature, right? So if you look at the world of patient experience, perhaps there's not a direct financial offset to investing in another patient experience liaison or something like that, but there are tons of soft benefits that will ultimately kind of impact the overall operation of the building. So it's just a matter of weighing each offset in its own right and regard, and having those conversations with the operators to understand what we're willing to invest in. And
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very similar. I think because of the relationships that we build with the department leaders, I think there's like kind of an established culture almost that if there is a need, you're going to come with some type of background about it, whether it's a proposal or a business plan or something that substantiates your request in a sense. I think because we meet so often with these leaders and they've gotten to know us over the the last few years, they really understand what our needs are going to be, right? There's a set pool of money that we have to kind of allocate to the whole hospital, and I think people really understand that. So I think that the answer is never really yes or no right away. It's more so like, let's look at the data if it's possible, and then tell me what you're going to gain out of this, right? Like, how are you staffing with 3 people now? What kind of coverage do you have with these 3 people? And if we give you a 4th, what are you going to gain, right? Are you going to be able to cover the entire house for the weekend? And those are really valuable things that need to happen at times. And I think because we're able to kind of gather these requests and look them over with the entire executive team, we can kind of make decisions that are best fit what the needs of the hospital are.
I think it's valuable for both sides of it to work together and kind of find that sweet spot of, what is going to be the most valuable to the patient and something that's sustainable for our staffing models. So thank you for giving us a little more insight into managing the expectations across the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for those, requests that don't have a financial offset right away, it's about, does the result fit the mission and vision of the building, and will the executive team support that relative level of investment? And once you get there, the decisions kind of come naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Do you find yourself communicating with other children's hospitals in the country?
We have in the past, and because we have this tool now within Children's Hospital Association where we can kind of compare different metrics to other hospitals, we can use the organizers of that organization to connect with people on very specific issues because they've done a project on that specific issue in the past, and we'll try to see if we can replicate those things.
Right.
Well, something I really appreciate about the MAP program is that everyone has a different background and brings a different perspective to the table. So thank you both so much for joining us today and giving us more advice and guidance and insight into the world of hospital finance.
Yeah, I think we got two really unique perspectives. One who's, seen almost every hospital in the Eastern region, aside from two, and, one who's become an expert of one facility and knows the ins and outs and has really observed the growth of the entire medical center. So thank you guys so much for joining us on episode 3. This was so much fun, and
we look forward to hearing your comments and conversations.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Today we have two guests, Kim Stagg and TJ Klement. Wait, is it TJ Klement?
Clement.
I've been saying Clemente.
That's
So where's your favorite?
no comment.
In hospitals throughout the nation.